Hey, glad you can make it. Welcome to Fantasy Dad Pods, where dad pods are glorified and dad jokes are encouraged. I'm JT, accompanied by Sean. Sean, how we doing?
Oh, we're not doing too bad. Not doing too bad. The winter season, late November. That means trying to repair my snowblower that has not worked for 2 years, and just got my bill back today. So good for that. You should. It's a good time to remember to maintain snowblowers in the summer.
Oh,
Turns
snap.
out good idea. What turned out to be a gift from, well, I don't know, what do you call it? Like, my dad was like, I bought a new snowblower, so I'm giving you my old
Mm,
snowblower. He didn't buy it with the intent of giving me a gift. It was just like, I don't need two, so take one, or I'm going to sell it. So I was like, fine.
right.
I don't actually like using it because I like getting out there and shoveling it myself. But
Mm-hmm.
the wife's like, hey, if you're gone or whatever, I don't know where I'll be. This is when I used to be traveling more. I don't know where I'll
Oh,
be.
sure.
She's like, if I need to do it, like, okay. I was like, okay, fine. We'll just put it in the garage. It's fine. But I didn't maintain it for a little bit. Now I'm getting a fatty bill over here. So lesson
Yeah.
learned. Lesson learned there. So, but other than that, yeah, we went on a little excursion this weekend to see Santa. I believe you were aware since you were also there.
Yeah.
We went on a little excursion together with the boys. We also learned to get there at the same time, so we get on the same boat. Learned that.
I wouldn't have guessed there'd be three boats for a 6 o'clock. Like, it was
Yeah,
ridiculous how many people they booked for one
I
time
didn't also
slot.
anticipate the size of the boats. I thought they'd be a little bigger than that. I was
Hmm.
thinking more The Office,
Oh, right.
boosters style
Because
boats.
we saw a couple of those. Like, must have been a different tour.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, like there's enough. I saw online. I was like, there's enough of us. Like it'll be like I've heard it's full, so I mean,
Packed.
this
Yeah.
seems like it's full. But then they're like, "Here's three little ones, the size of the big one you thought." I was like, "Oh, good to know. Good to know."
Yeah.
So we live and learn. It was a good time though. It was a good time. Kids' sleep schedule got a little off. I think maybe the best time will be for these trips will be in a couple of years once the youngest isn't napping because he's kind of like the anchor still. He's the there's a timer and it's his nap times. That's
Just a
what and his
buzzkill.
bedtimes and nap times. Like the older one will go up a little later, because you got the two. They're more fluid.
Right.
The it is a miserable time for all if the younger one doesn't get to bed at a decent time and doesn't nap at a decent time. It's just he's like, this is what it is. We're like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, he screamed for 25-minute drive home, and after that boat
Suck
ride
the
because he was
fun
like,
out of seeing Santa.
it is my bedtime, and you passed out for the last 3 minutes of that car ride, and then he proceeded to not go home, not to sleep for another hour. So,
Yeah.
1-year-olds, what can you do? But yeah, that was it since we kind of left off. Couple weeks here, got a crazy little bit of work, so we had to take a couple weeks off. But we're back, we're going, we're cruising, and we're ready for home stretch of fantasy football. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Trying to get the route corrected on a couple teams and trying to stay the course on a couple other ones. But yes, same here. Other than personally, just coaching basketball and
I was gonna
this
say, I
week
hear your
off
youngest play
for.
some lockdown defense.
Yeah, he literally like just tried to hug a kid and was like, "You're not getting the ball." I was like, "Well, keep your hands off." But
Well, I mean, JT, you argue foul. I argue, did he get the ball?
right,
Like,
was
objective
the
complete.
was the whistle blown, and it's
Yeah,
not a foul unless you get caught. So
exactly, exactly. So I say good defense.
right, no, it's yeah, it's a good group of kids, and even like our youngest, who's like tiny petite little thing, she made a basket. It was like I wish I had fireworks. It was awesome. She had never even like rim checked herself, and let alone mid game gets the ball passed to her and is like right there at the hoop and like swish. And it was just like I've never seen you like it just was perfect. 100% full leg arm effort, jumped into it like
The
I
whole
don't
body.
it was a magical, one of those magical moments. So pretty stoked for
Disney
her.
was there. They're doing their in season. They're following the team. Um, Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was cool. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, football week 12 just wrapped up. We're recording Monday night. Still got 2 weeks left and a lot of bye weeks. A lot of 14 bye weeks. I haven't checked into week 13. We'll get into that, but then we'll we're about playoffs in a different episode. But um, I don't know, kind of a mixed bag in week 12. I don't know if you had any big major takeaways. I mean, that snow game, Pittsburgh kind of maybe just started off a kind of a weird weekend.
It sounded like from what, because we were both driving, missed the early window, but it sounded like the famous witching hour for the red zone, the last little hour and a
Mm,
half, hour or so of the 10 o'clock games was absolute bananas show. So I missed it. Was kind of like, oh, we're doing some stuff, and the end of the 10 o'clock games was just, I mean, you saw the Washington highlights where they make their Hail Mary, essentially score the touchdown, miss extra point, lose the game.
mm-hmm.
Classic. It was like the Saints against the Panthers, who did like the early 2000s, who did like the 14 laterals, score a touchdown. We're gonna tie it, go to overtime, miss the extra point. That was when the extra point was from the 2. Like that was like
Again,
chip shots of chip shots. Like that's what it reminded me of. I'm like, oh my gosh, like of all the things to do. So it was well, it was also wasn't a good week for yours truly in fantasy. So that's also I guess the takeaway from that was needed some guys to come through. It did not play the right guys, and guys got hurt mid game
yeah.
all day, every day. Where do I start? Chargers running back. Oh gosh, just trying to blank. Gus, not Gus Edwards.
Dobbins?
Yeah. He got hurt first half. I don't think he came back. Was having a nice first half. Don't have obviously the game just ended, so I haven't I was getting the kids down, so I didn't get to see an update here. But looks like end of the game leg. I don't want to speculate on what the leg, because I just saw him in passing, literally in passing as I'm taking the kids upstairs, him limping. As my wife's watching the game, trying to see if Zay Zay Flowers can get her some points. Did not have it.
Mm-hmm.
But so she was checking it out. But I guess the other one I see here, Josh Downs, long shot to play against the Patriots. Oh, and our Cougar Dynamo, not fancy relevant, but Minshew out for the year,
Yeah.
broken collarbone.
Yeah. I was just a feel good story like, hey, he's still kind of doing his thing. But yeah, that's unfortunate. Let's see if Las Vegas, checks their own waiver wire. I heard there's a quarterback, available
I mean, I don't know if there's one to turn that
around
team around,
town.
but
Wouldn't that be perfect? Just that would be a Hollywood Disney.
it's seriously after getting dumped on by the Broncos. Yeah, the I guess we could keep the injuries short and sweet by saying all the 49ers are hurt. Purdy, Bosa, so hurting your defense.
Yeah.
Who knows what's happening there? Chris McCaffrey doesn't look quite right. So we could kind of go on to that. What I my favorite thing is targets, JT. Let's talk about targets. Unless you got some crazy injuries that you want to talk about.
No, I see. I'm staring at Austin Eckler. I'm like, I had the bye week. I started you, and unfortunately got a concussion. It's like just one of those things. Like, fantasy gods are just like, okay, that's how it's gonna be.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know if anyone else really. I mean, even Brian Robinson got the questionable there.
yeah.
That was
It's the
that was
time of the
one of
year
his
running
weird
backs are
games too,
questionable. It feels like
right?
it's just.
Um, but yeah, let's get to some targets.
I am just so shocked how much Malik Neighbors just continues to be targeted. Well, not as shocked as like that. It's just like he's missed 3 weeks, bye week included. He's still fourth in the league in targets.
Hmm.
That's just insanity. Um, I mean, the two of the ones in front of them have not missed a game and don't even have their bye week yet. And I'm like, you've missed 3 weeks and you're still doing this thing. And the other guy is Garrett Wilson, who has 23 targets in 1 week. That's basically inflating his whole average. So it's just like, man, Malik Neighbors just getting fed. Then nothing wrong with it. I guess the one shock that comes here, JT, is the leader for the Seahawks targets by a decent margin is JSN. Coming in the year, I never would have. I mean, DK did miss 2 weeks, but still, like that's part of the equation here. What are your thoughts? You think that continues even while healthy? Because you know, Wald, DK came back and still got out targeted this week, 11-9. So and JSN like feasted on targets after. I feel like Tyler's the one that's going to be consistently what it is. But are we seeing a flip here for not necessarily argue receiver one, but receiver one being changed in terms of targets?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels that way with Lockett being just kind of the third wheel, and then DK kind of having the injury bug there for a little bit. JSN's really been like the only constant, and so I feel like maybe that's just coming to fruition on terms of availability is a big thing, and he's pretty much played all year and out of one of the top two wide receivers in that offense, and that Gino, what most pass yards in the NFL so far through week 12, and it's a nice spot to be in because DK is loud and proud of it, and he gets a lot of attention, and JSN, um, I don't know, just kind of underrated. Like you even look at him, and he just kind of has that weird. He has one of those taller helmets, those like elongated. It
Yeah,
makes it look kind of silly. Like you even just look at him, and you just lose a little bit of respect because he just doesn't look like a big, physical, imposing. He's quick, shifty, whatever. But it's just like you're just like, this, it's this guy. But, I
but
mean, no, no
he
knock
just keeps
to.
racking up those targets.
Yeah, yeah. Just something
Um,
about Ohio State, maybe. They're just underrated.
there's a lot of them up here. What catches your eye here, with in terms of targets?
Um, I'm looking at like recent targets over the last, well, if I include this week, 4 weeks. Mr. Sutton in Denver is getting quite a few looks, and kind of kind of like a sneaky. I mean, he's gone 10, 9, 8, and then this week another 10 targets. That's a healthy dose. That's just something that like I wouldn't have put him in the top, 15 in target shares over the last 4 weeks, but it's just Bo Nix, the evolution. He's really progressed throughout the year. I mean, when Seattle played him, it was just like he literally had kid gloves on. And it was just like it was super apparent. It was really awkward to watch. And man, I'm really glad the Seahawks played Denver early in the season because I'd be kind of scared to play him now. But in that offense and the way it operates is just like I know Sutton's probably he's 8% rostered, and the deadline for fantasy football is come and gone. But like if you've got him and you've kind of waded through it all, it's going to be a pretty decent matchup to end the year,
Yeah,
and you kind of persevered through some bumps there, but you're going to finish looking at the playoffs. They got the week 14 bye, but then you got Indy, Chargers, and Bengals, and those are all just kind of mid.
yeah. The only one you'd have to worry about is Kansas City since they've been good, but that's if you play the last week and if Kansas City's playing for
True,
something.
true. Yep,
Double if there. So could even be beneficial even if you do play the last week.
right. Yeah, how about
Which
you? Anybody stand out?
um kind of similar to that is Jerry Judy since Amari Cooper
Mm,
left. He's clearly had a big uptick in production since Jerry Judy left. And I know that people were like, oh, kind of expected something, but he's pumping 80, 75-ish, yards a game with like 6 catches and, occasionally a touchdown here and there or, goes for 140. I just feel like he's taken a massive step in production with Jameis Winston in Cleveland, which I think some people thought, yours truly included, it would be a Nick Chubb. Like, we're not going to be able to throw the ball. Let's just run this thing when Nick Chubb comes back. And Cleveland's like, no, we're just going to keep chucking this thing, even without our quarterback. We trust Jameis Winston that much, and they've been throwing it still. So they've got a couple guys there that I don't know if they missed a beat with Amari Cooper being out. So I'm pleasantly surprised. The other one is just Um, Brock Bowers, like he only caught 4 passes, but he was targeted 10 times. Like it was a bad game. You look at it, but I'm like, he's not. You're not going to convert, 10 of 4 very often. I mean, now depending on your third string quarterback is, maybe it gets a little spicy, but at least someone's got to get targeted. At least he's getting the double digit targets. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
it,
yeah.
it's just like it is just consistently Brock Bowers just getting fed, and it is like, I was like, oh, he's a tight end. Justin Jefferson will pass him in targets. No, not yet. Like it's still just like we talked to Corton Sutton. Like we got all these guys. Travis Kelsey. Nah, Travis Kelsey, son, you're not even in the ballpark. You know what I mean? Like in targets. So I'm like, you got to play an extra game to catch him at this point. So I'm gonna say Brown. All these guys, you're just like, man, just Brock Bowers just keeps getting fed. And then the
Oh,
last
it's
one,
tight end number one, Brock Bowers. You gotta put
oh
some
yeah,
respect on that name.
the other one, that just keeps. Now it doesn't include this week, just the totals up until last. No, it does include this week up until because they had a bye week. Darnell Mooney of the Falcons. The Falcons have 2 guys in the top here. Drake London, not surprising, but Darnell Mooney being a top 10 target above Travis Kelsey, above Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's surprising. That's surprising. And they already had their bye week, so I think at a certain point they're just going to keep feeding him. Now
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be kind of like what Tyler Lockett was more in his prime. Maybe not so much anymore, but we could talk to that later too. He's just going to be a nice floor guy for you. You know, 5
Yeah.
catch. I mean, barring this week, but you're basically at 5 catches, 80 yards, and occasionally gets you a touchdown. I'm like, in a half point PPR league, you're looking at 10 points. Absolutely, I don't have to worry about no touchdowns. I get 10 points for sure, for sure. For a guy you probably picked up off waiver wires, you could do a whole heck of a lot worse than that. I'm pleasantly surprised with what little Darnell Mooney stock I have, but I'm surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised. Is there anybody else you wanted to touch on here?
No, I mean those are all names I was already looking at. Yeah, quick to judge Judy, if you will. So right there with you. Man, I am interested on who's the backup quarterback in Las Vegas. It's
Better.
oh yeah, I'm interested to see how it is because in terms of targets, I mean Trey Tucker had 8 this last week. Jacoby Myers had 15, and then you throw in, Bauer's
With
been
10.
eating up the targets, 10 alone this week. It's just like because what Madison was inactive, and he's been like the pass catching running back, and then White's always seems to be banged up, and the running game is just awful. So I mean, if anything, they're just trying to spread out the football and throw it around. So if that can hold true, it'll be interesting to see because I hate to have a rock in the boat because yeah, their fantasy the rest of the season through week 17 just looks choice. It looks top shelf.
They're
I
gonna be
mean,
down. Let's put it that
yeah.
way. Yeah.
Playing Kansas City the next week, week 13, and it's Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Jacksonville, New Orleans. So it's either they're gonna be down or they're gonna be play a defense just does not know how to defend against the pass. So it's just like
And we talked
really
about they can't run the ball at
at all.
all. At all. Like
So
averaging a yard a carry. So I think they've just said F it. Because they were up by like till half of this game. And they were still
mhm.
chucking this thing. So it wasn't like they were down from the get go. They were up. And they were up by a couple scores too, and they were still throwing it. So
Yeah.
I think any game script, they know that they can't run it. They're just gonna throw it. So you got 3 guys getting double digit targets. Like they've been beat up the last 2 games, and Brock Bowers has 26 targets in the last 2 games. Like I'm just like, yeah, that's just what it's gonna be. They're gonna chuck this thing. So I don't know how efficient it's gonna be, but they're gonna throw it. Like you're gonna get targets. Somebody for those Raiders is gonna get targets, and they're gonna find 30 of them somewhere, 35 of them probably. So
Right.
as weird as it sounds, maybe investing in some Raiders might not be the worst idea.
Yeah, there should be a lot to go around, and who knows? Maybe O'Connell comes back. I don't. He's not ready to return from IR from the most recent report,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of weeks left of football,
that's
so
true.
we'll see.
Well, let's go to some QBs. Let's talk. Ad drops some QBs. I'll start with one. I'm buying back into the Dolphins. Tua. I mean, again, as long as Tua's healthy, 61%
Hmm.
rostered in ESPN. They're getting healthy. They're looking good. That's why I kind of picked him up in a couple of the leagues. I was like, hey, you're gonna sit on my bench, see what we got. Last 2 weeks, 24 plus points. Just this offense starts to click again. Here we go. So I think 61 is far too low for a team that can get hot here. Because again, it's one of those where I just believe I don't even care about your defense. If Miami, just people forget just what happened a year ago. Miami was just putting up gangbusters of points. I think it's one of
Hmm.
those where they're going to score points because that's who Miami is. So yeah, they played New England, who has a good defense, and they took it to them. So I'm all aboard the Tua train. 2-2.
Jeez, Tua Tua's got over 600 passing yards and 7 touchdowns to 0 interceptions the last 2 games. I
Yeah,
mean, one was Las Vegas, which is expected, but
yeah.
I mean, yeah, showed up against the New England defense. Like
Well, I mean, that's the thing with Vegas. You figure they're up by a lot, but they still trusted him enough to throw it 36 times. Like they could have
Mhm.
just ran the ball and been fine. They're like, no, you're
That's
gonna throw
true,
this.
right? I mean, he
So
threw 40 times
their
to
offense
two.
has to function through Tua. Like off balance, get some stuff going with each hand. Like just so they're telling you like this is our offense here. Like it's going through this. So
Right?
I maybe not to the extent of like 304 touchdowns a game, but they're gonna let them throw it. So
I mean, Johnny Smith's been popping off. So if you're in need of a tight
yep,
end, there you go. Waddle finally showed up.
yeah, big time.
Um, yeah, I didn't even look at Hill's line. Was
I didn't
he?
I didn't see his line specifically, but he's one of those where I'm like I don't even have to look if he's like producing because it's Hill. You know, like he's
Hmm.
gonna get his stuff. He's gonna be fine, barring I think an injury.
And I know he was most recently he was talking about was his finger wrist? Yeah, wrist.
Yeah, he
So
played though, right?
yeah, he played. He was there. Just kind of a
50 yards. Yeah. But I mean,
mid.
even before that, the previous 4 weeks over 10 fantasy points. So
Yeah.
he's been you
Still
know
holds true to the meme. He needs to get arrested pregame in order to have 100+ yards receiving. So
that's still been a guarantee so far.
yeah.
But
So check your police scanners in Miami for Thanksgiving festivities to see if anything that will correlate. Right? It's
that's
correlation. It's not causation.
causation. Yeah. See, we're learned doctors here. Trying to think. Feel free to shout out. I don't know what to do with Bo Nix still. Like, there's some hype and everything like that, and the defenses are fine. But I did see a stat that said Bo Nix good against bad defenses and awful against good defenses. That's basically what it is. Like
Mm,
he is like that's what it is. Like if you're a
yeah.
good passing defense, he will not do good things. If you are a bad pass defense, he will do good things. And I'm like, he gets Cleveland next. So
Right.
and then 2 weeks he gets Chargers. Your semifinals of your fantasy playoffs. I'm like, and again, 14-week bye week. What are we doing here? But like, yeah. What are your thoughts on Bo Nix? He's 81% roster, 20 more than Tua, which I think is insanity. But what do you think?
Yeah. I'm down. I'm obviously it needs to be rostered into QB league. The crux is the one QB. I mean, for you to be in the position of looking at Knicks, either something's come up, you've lost a quarterback to injury, or you're sitting on a rookie that is mobile, and
That's the
you
thing. He hasn't
waited
been
on a
running that much
quarterback in
either,
your
though. Recently,
draft. Right, that is true. That's a really good
we talked
point.
about him like, oh, he's gonna have a floor. Last 3 games, he's got 5 rushing yards
Right.
total. I that's where I thought his fantasy value was gonna come from, and that's why he's kind of capped. He hasn't last 4 weeks. He's hit over 20 points one time, and I'm just like, there's no rushing yards. I thought that's what was gonna kind of give him a floor, but really hasn't been there.
Yeah, I mean, 42 passing attempts. 33 and 30 the previous weeks.
Under 60% completion though. That does,
That's kind
against
of, yeah.
Vegas. Like there's some duds in here, man. There are a lot of 50% passing games, a couple of 48. And Sean Payton is very much a completion percentage person. So if he's giving you a 59% completion percentage on an offense that is designed to increase your completion percentage, I don't want to say there's an accuracy issue, but like, man, you're gonna complete 60% of your passes and get me like no rushing yards.
Hmm.
Are you just a little bit better version of Anthony Richardson at this point? Like,
We'll find out week 15.
that's
No,
true.
coming out the bye.
I mean, Anthony's getting Anthony. You went 40% completion. My goodness. Well, that Detroit game got ugly fast, so I guess.
Yeah.
But still, that's probably why it got ugly fast. So, man, Anthony Richardson. Well, he's 52% roster. It needs to be lower than that. I will just transition to that. I don't. You can't be below. You've done it twice already. You can't have below 40% accuracy. My goodness. My goodness. You've had I'd say two good fantasy games this year, and one of them you needed 2 rushing touchdowns to make it that way. JT, I guess, like, what are your thoughts on Anthony Richardson? I think this year I'm not rostering him, and I'm having serious doubts coming into this. Is all again, all fantasy speaking. Next year, what I'm going to do with him? Where are you at with Anthony Richardson?
He was my QB2 on my roster for my 2 QB league. I stuck with him after the injury because we talk about like a rushing floor that's there.
Yeah,
And after he
it's
got
very much there for him.
after he got benched, I got in a bye week crunch, and I had to drop him, and I'm okay with it. It's kind of like I feel like maybe a slight missed opportunity, but in terms of like trust and knowing what to expect, I just like I don't know what to expect. So I felt like there was more safer options for my second QB, where I think I have Josh Allen as QB1. So it's just kind of like I just need 15 plus points out of you. I don't know what's
And
going
he
on
has not
there.
been getting that. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Colts because it seems like the coach wants something different than the GM or ownership wants to, not project out on this second year guy and got injured last year, cut his rookie year short, and I'm just in general, I'm looking at a week 15 uh, playoff, week 1 against Denver's defense like that. Like I want no part of that as a fantasy owner. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of like it's kind of tough to say he's not even really he's fringe QB2 on a 2 quarterback team, but that's where I'm at with it
It's
because I feel
probably,
like
yeah,
I can.
24th, between 28 and 22nd. Yeah, I see that somewhere between there.
Yeah, I probably just play the waiver wire and play the matchups
Yeah, it's
elsewhere.
it's it's just hard. I mean, honestly, it's getting to the point where like maybe you run a running back or something like that, just because it's like, I mean, he's putting up 8 points in some weeks. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, man, 12 points. You're like full point PPR. Could I get 12 points from a wide receiver? Maybe. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I just one quarterback leagues. It's just not even an option to roster him. I don't think, even
Right.
as a backup. Even dynasty speaking, I needed to see more, and I just didn't see a step because it's like I get it. This is essentially his rookie year, but there's just not a lot there. At least fantasy wise. Trying to see who else strikes my fancy. Tommy DeVito, good story. 14% rostered is being generous there. Fantasy community. That is certainly a take there. You're voting with your heart there. Just seeing anybody else that's like big up or down. There's a lot of people that I feel like are properly rated here. And I'm just like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'll say Matthew Stafford probably needs to be higher since his 2 receivers came back. We're looking at 26, 19, 11, then 28, and then 19 fantasy points. Like that's what I'm saying. Like he should kind of be your Anthony Richardson. You know what I mean? Like as a backup for sure, or you need a bye week. Like that guy's gonna be good. Get you, you
Hmm.
know, get you your, what you said, 15. He's probably gonna get you your 19 points that you need. What he's been averaging. They're just gonna chuck that thing. It's Sean McVay. So I think he's your kind of the guy you hope Anthony Richardson would be, and he's rostered in 32% of leagues. I think Anthony Richardson being rostered in 53, I'm like it needs to be Matthew Stafford. That's the percentages need to be flipped there. I think Anthony Richardson needs to be much lower, especially in a 1 year. This is your redraft league. Like I don't see you're banking on Anthony Richardson. You're drafting him and rostering him because of what he could be. But you're in a league right now where you need to win this year. It's got to be Stafford rostered to 50%, not Anthony Richardson. So there's just
You want to hear something crazy?
What's up?
Will Levis has like such a amazing end of the year. I feel like he could totally redeem himself a little bit. I mean, we plays Washington this next week,
Oh
and
my
then goes
gosh, yeah, that looks
Jacksonville, Cincy, Indy, and then at Jacksonville. So
that is
it's
definitely the
either
most tasty matchup. Like
it's either super soft defenses or they're definitely going to be losing or needing to keep up and like pass.
that is a super soft birthday party if I've ever seen one. Can I also tell you when I click on when I clicked on Will Levis and it tells you the stats, it tells you like quarterbacks near him. And
Mm,
there's never an ultimate more. It is Cooper Rush to my left and Patrick Mahomes to my right. And I'm like, how is these three people? Like Will Levis and then like Cooper Rush, Mahomes, 132. I'm like, okay. So the
whoa.
whole league's in between. Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that is a nice pick. Honestly, I respect the cojones, JT, of doing it. Because again, like, 17, 19, 16 points, it's not a lot, but like you figure with those defenses helping you out a little bit, doing some nice things, he can. I think Will Levis, what I've understood is there's talent there, but there's a couple times a game where he does the head on the helmet gif where you're just
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? And if he just eliminated those, they're not talking like Mahomes level, but they're talking like, okay, like we're cooking with gas a little bit here. We can do some stuff because our talent is not a question. Things like that. It's just like, can we make proper decisions? Can we just be smart the entire game? And the question's been no for most of it. But we can avoid a pick here and there. He's getting over 20 points, the last couple weeks, and but it's just like no, making some silly mistakes. But if Jacksonville might give you a couple, like
Right.
Indy might give you a couple. So that's a really you're digging deep in there, JT. But man, tip of the cap. I like that. I like that. Let's shift over to run. I got really excited before I did this. I want to say this, JT. I was like, man, I saw Amir Abdullah do pretty decent for me on a backup on a just a pickup. I was like, let's see what we did. We just talked all this crap about Raiders rushing game, and he got 3 yards of carry. So I mean, I guess technically it's better, but it's
Right.
not. I was like, oh, we got fan. I'm like, he caught 5 passes for 40 yards and a touchdown. There's his fantasy points. Okay, I'm like 8 rushes, 28 yards. Okay, that's more what I was expecting. Got it. So I was like, I get he's being picked up. Like his percentage jumped 20%. You're starting running back in football, but is the Raiders just that bad at blocking? Like, it has to be. It's 3 guys now. Now, I'm not saying any of them are
Right.
world burners, but, like, you can't get, like, 4 yards of carry in one game. like, we can't even do that? Like, so, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Raiders. That's just rough.
Well, yeah, obviously the defense, I dare you to throw it 40 times. If
Yeah.
we're just like, we're just,
And
we
that
like
maybe
our
that's why Brock
chances
Bowers
are.
is, like, catching 3-4 passes for every 10. It's like, look, you can't even run with like our minimum in the box, so we're gonna put all these guys in you're gonna throw into 8-7 guys. So good luck, because
Yeah.
you can't get any push on the D line. So
Yeah.
it
And you
just
want to leave Bowers in for pass pro? No, you're going to
exactly
send him out.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, is there any running backs? Like this is kind of like the time of the year where you're like, oh, here we go, running backs. Yes, no, I man, there's not really. shockingly, there's not a ton of I was gonna pitch that to you, but I'm just not seeing a ton of like big movement, and I don't really warrant any either. Is there a guy you're kind of like big on? You think so?
Um, I watched quite a bit of that Cleveland Pittsburgh game, and I'm just wondering if Warren is going to get more opportunities in terms of just overall touches
Yeah.
compared to Harris, or if they're going to be more productive, I guess I would phrase it. They might overall just split in terms of like touches, but I feel like Warren might be more explosive or impactful.
It's been the way
It's a
for like 2
really,
years running now. So
yeah,
I
it's
just
just
want him to pull that trigger, I'm like, stop giving these carries to
right, and it's a really daunting final weeks for any type of trust or relevance for fantasy football, but, um
he's been much more efficient though. Even I'm looking at it
mhm,
like he is constantly over 4.5 yards a carry. We're in the same game,
yeah,
uh, like Najee Harris is getting like 2.5. Like, I'm just like, he is so much more efficient with these touches. And they just keep feeding Najee Harris. And we've been seeing the last 3 or so weeks the Jalen Warren is getting more and more work while Najee Harris is getting less and less work.
mhm,
So, but unfortunately, you say that Jalen Warren is already rostered in basically 70% of ESPN leagues. But I mean, I get what you're saying. Like,
yeah,
and I agree.
uh, yeah, Yahoo's got 59, so, I
Okay.
mean, like,
Okay.
it's a little bit of a cliff because otherwise it's my answer to you would be, "Oh, I think I might be circling back around to Bucky Irving." I mean, he got 12 carries, super active, 6 targets, caught all
Yeah.
6. He had a really good game against, well, the Giants, but
Yeah.
still, it's just he's got a man. If you could just
Oh, yeah.
tell me
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
one running back for the Buccaneers that they're just gonna go with, it's just like, okay, that's
Gosh, have you seen those
RB1
matchups?
territory.
Have you seen Carolina, Vegas, Chargers are rough, but then Dallas and Carolina to end?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just pick a guy. Like, just pick a guy, Tampa Bay. Make it Bucky. Like, oh my goodness.
So I mean, like, hey, that's a new career high in terms of just total yards for Irving. Awesome. Um, White only got the 5 touches, and yeah, it's just I feel like it makes more sense to roll with Irving, and I would plant my flag on him out of any of
Yeah.
those running backs. And why not? I mean, it's just like those are some nice matchups. I at least have them on your bench so someone else doesn't burn you with their flex
Yeah.
against you
Yeah.
coming up. Um,
100%.
what's his roster in ESPN?
Bucky is at 78.
Okay, so yeah,
So,
76
yeah.
for Yahoo.
Is what do you have Pacheco at? Oh, he's 89. He's basically 90 in this one.
Oh,
Yeah. Because I mean, he's come back, and so I mean, obviously not the only one thing about that, but
Checo 94.
yeah,
So they probably
because
stashing him on those
yeah, I'm
IR.
just seeing because people have been starting to stash him again because I've been seeing Kareem Hunt. If we had a podcast 2 weeks ago, we probably would have said that, but it's already too late at this point. Hunt is probably not long for the starting role with Pacheco coming back, but I guess the long answer short is maybe Amir Abdullah is the guy to pick up. Like he was the most effective. He's
Hmm.
under 70% of what we've been, like we've been talking about everybody above 70%. He's the only guy that I'd be like, that's anything less than 70%. Would be like, yeah, I feel good about that. I mean, I would have said Cam Akers going into this last week, but he didn't. He didn't do anything. I mean, he had some nice, but he didn't get the number of touches. Yeah, Aaron Jones came back with a vengeance and got all the touches again. So, uh, can't even say that. Yeah, it's got to be Amir Abdullah. There's really, and even dropping like there's nobody that I'm like, you got to drop him that high. Nick Chubb, 84%, but he got 20 carries and 2 touchdowns. I'm just like,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, that's what it is. Everybody else, I feels like pretty properly. Like, there's no like 80% guy that I'm like, what are you doing? It's just, I think the running back market, unfortunately, as boring as it is, maybe on this podcast, is pretty settled in there. Maybe DeAndre Swift at 95 is a little too high, but it's not like there's another option on the team that they're handing it to. They're not handing it to the backup.
No. Yeah.
Roshan Jenkins, right? Is that get the team?
He
Did I get
had
the
a
team right? Yes, or Johnson.
Johnson.
Sean
Johnson.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He was.
Is Jenkins is a safety, I think. Like for the Seahawks, actually. Yeah, now I think about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was like, I knew that was
Yeah,
it.
Roshan was like that kind of like savvy pickup before week 12, but I
Yeah.
mean, Swift's the guy, and
Yeah.
much like any running back at this point, it's gridlocked. It's pretty much set in
Yeah.
stone unless
Barring an
there's a
injury. Yeah.
catastrophic
Yeah.
injury. It's really just hoping you got some decent matchups. I feel like wide receivers would be the one where you could mix and match.
Well,
Maybe that's
let's
where we go
go.
to
Let's go.
next.
What do you got? What do you got? What's your you got a sexy pick for wide receivers?
Let's see.
I'm trying to see
Why
here.
is it not?
My wife bought in the hype of picking up Quentin Johnson, who went 0 for 5 on targets today, so she was not too happy about that. She's like, I just needed a point. Well,
Got bricks for hands.
yeah. I also did see that, like, as some people were rostering, again, a Green Bay Packer, Christian Watson, yours truly also roster him. Did not play him, thankfully, though, but got 0.4 points after going for 150. It's I say this every week, I feel like, but it's just the Packers, man. I have no idea. JT. Help me. Let me quit them. It's like, look, it's like 9-0, 8-0, 14-1. Like, it's just like 17.4. Like, it's every other week. I'm just like, so I guess in theory, then Christian Watson's going to go off next week, right? Is that my own theory that I just came up with live here? Is we got to do this.
It's a circle. It's the ping pong.
Yeah, I'll say Jerry Jeudy needs to be above 63. Because I already talked about him earlier, how all of his targets are coming in. He's putting up points. Last 4 weeks, all 10 plus points as after struggling in the beginning of the year. So again, your fantasy, that's half point PPR. Just FYI, we're talking about half point. Your guy gets you 10 points in half point PPR. That is like, not a world beater, something like that. But that is a guy that is not going to cost you any week. I'll take 10 points every day. You get 10 points from 10 points from all your positions, and your quarterback gets you 20. You're looking at 110 points in a standard league.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So let's do it. So big on Jerry Jeudy, needs to be above 60. I mean, I guess I'll say Elijah Moore probably needs to be above 60 if is it Tillman who got hurt for them?
Yeah.
Got a concussion after I traded for him. So that was super fun.
For
Traded him for Nick Chubb, by the way, which we don't want you to talk about that.
Dang. I'm looking at Chicago wide receiver trio. Moore is very much rostered. But O'Dunes and Allen both 67 and 63% rostered respectively.
And what do you think?
They had 25 targets between the two of them over this weekend, and looking forward, that is a juicy turkey of a matchup.
A turducken of a matchup, if you will.
In Detroit, and then they gotta probably maybe compete against a healthy San Francisco by week 14 ? Then you go Minnesota, Detroit again, and then Seattle. I mean, like, that's just got passing written all over it.
I'll shout out our friend Rachel, her dad, being from Chicago. He texted her a couple weeks ago, and she told me, he said, the Bears might not win another game all year. This was 2 weeks ago. We're at week 10. And I'm like, well, you got 7 weeks left. Like, that's ridiculous. And I looked, and I was like, Dad might be right. Like, I was just like, the one they might get is the Seahawks. Like, other than that, I'm like, I don't know where you're getting a W. I really don't. And so, yeah, they're gonna be down. They're gonna be down a lot of weeks. So, pass catchers for the Bears. Yeah, sign me up. So I'm all there with you. Spoiler, I might be a hot take, but I think they might be down this Thanksgiving. I mean, I think they might be down a couple points to the Lions at some point. So, I will say, watching some Twitter feeds and some Devon. I'm gonna mess up your name, Devon Vele, Vele, Denver wide receiver. Has taken a big step, they said, in like route running and everything like that the last 3 weeks. and it's showing up now. People were very, very pleased with him. 1.7% rostered. I mean, the last 3 weeks, he's got 12, 9, and 11 points in fantasy. We talked about getting 10 points. 3 weeks in a row now, double digits. I think it's safe to make him more than 1% rostered at that point. You put up 3 weeks in a row of 10%, 10 plus points, 11 plus points. Let's give this guy a couple bumps. I guess he had 9 in 1 week, but you know what I mean. Like in general, above 11. I'm looking at him, and they said him and Bo Nix. From what I've been looking at, a lot of good chemistry. He is Humphrey there got leapfrogged. It is the Bonds like kind of taking the number 2 behind Sutton there. So feel free to shoot him out, JT. See anybody here that you feel? I love the name Lad McConkey. 86% rostered, right there where you should be.
Right. Yeah. I just clicked on a Green Bay guy, and you already mentioned the Green Bay.
Why'd you do it?
Did you see their schedule to end the year? Did you factor that in earlier when you're just randomly?
Yeah, but I don't even know. So one of the guys is going to go for 200 yards versus 0.
I know.
Which guy?
I was going to say, like, the whole conundrum of who to pick is going to be amplified because week 14 through 17 they go Detroit, Seattle, New Orleans, Minnesota. Like, there's a lot of opportunity there, but I don't like. It's gonna be the other person you pick up.
JT, you're preaching to the choir. Love it. I don't know if my mind can handle the 3-headed monster that is their receiving team and which one's gonna get the points. That's why I famously, with all those Saints years, I just avoided all fantasy, all wide receivers for like 8 years for the Saints. Mm-hmm. I was just like, I don't want any part of you. Love you all as players, but I don't want it. I don't want to like pull my hair out when I don't play Horn for the 2 weeks I should have played him, out of the month. Right. So I avoided it. And the worst part is I'm like all in it this year with Green Bay. Like not out of need, but out of like, I need a wide receiver here. This guy could go off, and that's what happens. That's what happens in like all of my leagues. And I'm like, I don't know. And then I end up like looking down. I'm like, how do I in one league have 2 Green Bay Packer receivers on my bench? Like, how did I get to this point? But I'm like, what else is out there? And I'm like, and I will say, one that I've been like kind of interested in is like, but it's Demario Douglas, just a bit less than what I've been saying before. Like, he's getting me like 8 points a week in a half point PPR, which again, not bad, but like I would, and these are all bench spots I'm usually going, like Demario Douglas or like a Watson, or like who am I running up there? And it's usually like a Watson because I want to get the extra points because I don't feel like a 7's gonna do me much. But it's just like that's where I'm kind of at, and like, could Demario Douglas do something? Yeah, but it's kind of like I'll put him in what we have is like the tight end bracket we have. Fine, but I need you to get a touchdown for me to be even sort of excited. If you don't get a touchdown, I'm gonna be like, great, this was not probably a good week for me rostering him. So that's you're in the tight end bracket, and unfortunately, he only has 1 touchdown this year, so it hasn't really been great. But it's been better recently. Let's put it that way. But yeah, it's you're getting your targets. You're getting your 50 yards. I just need you to get in the end zone once. Give me 1 tutty. Make it be the week I play you.
Is Shakir at 79% rostered too low? I'm gonna say so. He's been the man. Coleman's still injured. Cooper, I technically not injured, I don't think anymore, but I don't know what to make of what's going on there. They're coming off the bye. They get San Francisco, then the Rams, Detroit, New England, and then last week is the Jets. But who even knows if the Jets are going to be focused and wanting to even play at that point? I feel like he could be like that, savvy. He's out there in a couple leagues here and there. If you're in one of those leagues that's Shakir's for some reason on the waivers because of the bye week, and I'm probably gonna stress that it's probably got dropped because of the bye week. I'm down. I'm down to.
I think those receivers, there's certain teams where I'm not worried about who they play because I have faith in the quarterback. And I agree
Hmm.
with you on that one. I don't care who the Bills are playing because Josh Allen's going to make it work with those receivers. So if you buy into the talent of the receiver, and you're right, I think he's been weirdly enough, like with him coming over, with Amari coming over, it helped him more than it helped Amari. I feel like,
Yeah.
and so I don't know if maybe like just a little bit of help going to Amari's way opened it up for him, but something clicked, and so yeah, I'm in agreement. I think it should be higher. So yeah, no qualms there. They got the quarterback. It's proof. He's I don't care that they're playing 49ers. It's fine. I don't know what happened with you've got to drop him more, but Deontay Johnson, I Baltimore. This is just in general. You
Hmm.
traded for him. Now you didn't give a lot. A third round pick. In 4 weeks, you targeted him 5 times. He's one catch. What did you? Why did what? Like, why did you trade for this man? I was like, oh, in one league, I'm like, I got this guy. He's gonna go here. It's gonna be great. He's like, what? Like, you gave up a pick for this guy, and then just
Right.
refused to play him. There is some gambling going on. Someone has the over for receptions of him. How else do you explain this? Like, he wasn't
Right.
having a barn burner here, but someone's like, I have under 50 catches for Deontay Johnson this year. We gotta trade for him.
Right.
I don't understand other than that. I just really don't. So, uh, yeah. And also, this is more to my wife. I think we could backburner Tyler Lockett starting right now. 60% rostered. Probably needs to not be starting for you anymore. I'm
Yeah.
just I'm just throwing it out there. It pains me to say that more than anybody. You know about me and Tyler Lockett. Yeah, it's he needs to not be starting for you anymore. Anybody out there in general, but mainly my wife. Stop playing Tyler Lockett.
I have a weird one.
Yeah,
So it was Target Darling Wandale Robinson, or
yeah.
yeah, Wandale Robinson for the Giants. I had him on a deep league, and then I had a bye week crunch week 11, and with the whole quarterback turnover and not sure what was going to go on, I was just like, you know what? A ton of targets are nice, but I mean, like, I don't think it's really going anywhere. I don't even know if we're getting 5 yards per catch average on at this point. Neighbors is back. He's healthy. He's getting the lion's share. Is this their remaining schedule is bananas, and I would like a piece of it. It's just like 47% rostered for Wandale. Is that appropriate? Do you feel like new quarterback? I guess is is Locke gonna maybe see some time, or are they
No,
just gonna go straight up with Tommy?
yeah. It sounds like
Um,
I to answer your question, I think it's appropriate, not because of talent. They don't have any of no. uh, Maybe if Drew Lock became the starter, but Tommy DeVito is not an NFL quarterback, and
mm,
so, like you said, like he might get targets of like behind the line of scrimmage targets, but like, and those are fine, but you can't make a living off of that in
mhm,
fantasy. Like, are they gonna throw the ball downfield with Tommy DeVito? No. So yeah, I think I don't know if it was ever very high, but at least Daniel Jones can throw the ball a little bit. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
you could question other parts of his game, but like, I don't know if Tommy DeVito's much more than a Tim Tebow, honestly. And that's not going to get you what you want. And like you said, the main targets are going to go to neighbors anyways. So
Yeah,
you
it
were like,
does.
man, if we're chucking this thing, yeah, these two guys are great. But if we're going to one receiver only and you're getting the scraps, it is just the ceiling the floor fell out for him. And it is not due to talent, which is frustrating. It's just like we don't have a guy who can throw a football at this
Oh,
point.
right.
So
And
yeah, you're right. I roster Wandell in one league too, and I'm just like I can't play you anymore with Tommy DeVito out there
yeah,
throwing
it's
maybe 20 times a game with Malik
mhm,
Neighbors at least going to get 8 of those, and a couple of the running backs. So like what? Like there's 3 to a running backs. Neighbors gets 8. You got 9 targets for the rest of the team, and I got to try to
yeah,
fight for 4, 5 of them. And what? And five of those, like 2, 1, 2, you're going to go behind the line of scrimmage. It's not your best case. You're hoping like a tight end. He's turning into a tight end guy. You hope he gets a touchdown, and then my day's good. And I'm like, where we were to where we are now.
It is. I think it's like fool's gold. It's like a
Yeah,
lost opportunity because it's Dallas, New Orleans, Baltimore,
yeah,
Atlanta, Indy. Those are some really nice matchups, but I just don't think it's gonna go anywhere. And like you made a good point, it's almost kind of like in a tight end territory. So in the event you're just in this weird flex predicament and it's Wandale or your backup tight end or a random running, like I could see it, sure, whatever, 15 team league and it's really thin or something like that, but
yeah,
otherwise it's just I I don't think it's going to come to fruition. I think it looks better than what it actually will end up being.
yeah. Your bye week, and you need a flex. You're missing a running back and a wide receiver. Sure, like it
Yeah.
makes you know what I mean. Like might get a
Yeah, I
couple
mean,
targets, try to get a touchdown, but like if you're playing him in you have a healthy team and everybody's going, you're in trouble if you're playing him. I feel like
yeah.
at this point.
I mean, week
Uh,
14 has a lot of
yeah,
potential, a lot of
yeah.
bye week, a lot of big names, but yeah, otherwise.
Otherwise, it's kind of sketch. You got any tight ends, JT?
I was gonna say let's move to tight ends, but I feel like it's like running backs. It's kind of locked in. It's kind of is what it is.
I like what Will Disley's doing in I almost said San Diego land,
Yeah. I feel like
Charger land. You know,
Disley tight end one, like top 12,
I
right on the
maybe
fringe there.
yeah, but I mean, like once you get again like past five, it's a we've talked. It's a you take the Yahtzee thing and you just shake it, and you're like, what eight are going to be this week? It could literally be anybody. I guess I've been looking. I've turned this into like, do you get 6 fantasy points without a touchdown? Like,
Hmm.
can you do that? And let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out of the last 5 weeks, he's basically done it, not officially, but basically done it 4 of the 5 with one nice game where he got 80 yards on a touchdown. I'm like that. I consider that a win, and I consider that if you say that, actually, you go one further. It's out of the last 6 games he's done it 5 times.
Right.
So I'll say, yeah, maybe if you told me he can get me 6.6 fantasy points a week, that is a top 12 fantasy tight end because there are tight ends who, I mean, number one pickup, John Smith. He's in the last same 5 in the last what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's the same. He's the same. He's done it 4 out of 5 weeks,
Hmm.
and he's double rostered. And I'm like, it's the same thing. So I again, I've come to the rule of like, can you get me 6 points without a touchdown? Because then I'm not really necessarily touchdown dependent on you. Because 6 weeks from a tight end, again, not great, but like, that beats the what was his name? Was it Cook, the tight end for the Saints for a number of years? He'd get like two targets. They'd be on the 1 yard line and he'd get a touchdown. That was like his game. He'd get like 1 yard, one touchdown. And so my
Right.
head was like, can you beat that? Can you just beat the one catch for 2 yards for a touchdown? Yeah, 6.6 yards. Okay, you are getting 6. You're doing something with yards and enough catches. That means like you're involved enough in the passing game that it's fine. You have a floor, but if you also get that touchdown, it's a good week. So like I'm looking for the floor. So because I've chased the upside of tight ends too much. Like, oh, I'll get the touchdown. It's just like it's the Packers. I'm just like, I don't know where the touchdown's gonna go. I don't want to chase it. Let me chase the floor. So get me 6 fantasy points. And I feel like Will Disley's been doing that the last 5 or so weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, Hayden Hurst hitting the IR only,
Yep.
helps maybe one or two extra opportunities um, for the remainder of the season per week.
Yep.
So
Um,
I'm looking at Firemouth. Their
he
their projections defense is allowing against tight ends, like they've got some matchups that they're going to need to pass the football. Like a lot of those teams give up a ton of fantasy points to tight ends. It's just he's really hasn't been involved in the offense, and I'm just wondering if it's me trying to be hopeful or if it's that fool's gold we talked about just a little bit ago. But I don't think I could fully trust it. But again, we're talking about a tight end, so it's just like it's one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, got 8 points without a touchdown last week. Yeah, but other than that, he really hasn't been doing much without that touchdown. Yeah, I feel like it should go better, but honestly, Russell's track record with tight ends is not great. He just is not target tight end kind of guy. That's been that way for a long time. So I don't. Yeah, I probably. I mean, he's 43% rostered. You know what I mean? It's not gonna break the bank, and you kind of hope he catches one because the offense has been moving. You know what you like you said they've been moving the ball pretty well. They got some defenses though, JT. Cincy, Cleveland, Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City. That's a rough offensive game to go into. Those defenses are all legit. So I mean, you hope all you need with tight ends is just to get one. If you got a gut feeling he's going to get one, I am not.
Right.
This isn't to you. This is just a fantasy in general. If you got a gut feeling a guy's going to get a touchdown, who am I to tell you not to pick up the guy?
Right.
Because that's all this is. Who do you think is
And
going to get one?
for those defenses being tough, I'm like, I feel like Pittsburgh's gonna be more successful throwing the ball against those
Yeah.
defenses than
Yep.
running it. We talked about the
Yeah.
running situation. Maybe Warren takes over as the pass catching running back out
Yeah.
of that Steelers offense. So yeah, I'm trying to, find someone that's low rostered and might have a hope and a prayer and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No, that
But
the process is sound. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
side note, shout out to one of my cornhole buddies, his sister, his whole family's diehard Seahawks fans. She was talking about how fun it was watching the snow game on Thursday last
Oh
week, but
yeah,
she still spelled Steelers with an A in there, and I appreciate the heck out of that.
yeah. Well, is there any other way to spell it?
Oh, boom!
Yeah, is there any
Gratitude.
other way to spell it? Defenses. Let's see here. What do we got going into sexy week 13? Um, oh man, we got some week 13. No, I was looking at 39% rostered for. Oh, they do play San Francisco. Let's see. Bills against San Francisco. I feel like the Bills defense is solid, but San Francisco, they get healthy. What do you think? I'd probably steer clear. 40% rostered. That's probably fine.
Uh,
Answer my own question. Just trying to look for lower percentage rostered defenses right now.
yeah.
Who to
You
really
know who
roll with.
I was trying to pair up with in terms of bye weeks coming up and then fantasy playoffs? I have, let's see, mostly found Tampa Bay's defense to have a pretty decent, you know, availability in terms of roster percentage, but also that
Absolutely.
balance of like who they're gonna play and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna just snag up this defense, and if something else comes up that's better week to week, I could switch over. But then
I
playing the
mean,
Giants, I picked them up for week 12
yeah.
in the league, and I was like 10 points.
We talk about the running backs.
Completely take it.
Carolina,
Yeah.
Vegas, Dallas. Yeah, it's saying
So
Dallas is weird, but Dallas got nothing. Carolina, like that's pretty nice. That's a pretty nice run. They're what 35% rostered here. That's clearly the
yeah,
pickup of the week right there.
I
That's
mean Carolina just scared Kansas City a little bit, and Kansas City that's a legit defense. So we'll see if that was like a fluke or Bryce
you make
Young's.
them do it again. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
prove
You
it,
gotta be like,
double or
hey, I'll
nothing.
roll that dice, and if I get egg on my face, I get egg on my face. But I'm like, I'll make you do it again. Let's see what you got. Yeah, no,
So
that's I'm looking. And I don't know, JT, if you are, but like anybody that's rostered, I'm looking. I'm like, I'm getting up to like the 80% rosters. I'm like, I'm still like Dolphins. I'm like, hey, they got early. They're 63%. I'm like Green Bay. I'm like, no. I'm like, okay,
hmm
like
yeah,
then you're kind of like Baltimore, 57%, 57. Nope, Philly, and that eliminates Philly, who is already talking about. You're like, okay, well, you're going down here. You're like Chargers. Well, they got Atlanta, Kansas City. Not really that great. Like there's like I guess Washington, 48% roster. They got Tennessee.
yeah. I just got to them. Yeah.
That's maybe kind of but they're just not talented. So it's more like you're going against the team, but you're like, I wish the defense I'm picking had some talent to it. But I guess we'll say Washington and the Bucks. The Bucks is like S tier, like that is just peak. But Bucks Commanders, I feel like those are the only two I'm really comfortable with, other than like if you got a Denver, a Pittsburgh, a Houston, one of those, like 80 plus percentage rostered, then you're doing what you're doing. But You're in the muck and the
Right.
mire like us with the rotating cast. Those are the two to go with. Unless you got anybody else, JT?
No, the one other it's a trap. Yeah, it's definitely that Green Bay defense. Look, I roster them in a league. Don't get me wrong, but it's showing in Yahoo's Miami gives up the eighth most fan. That's a different Miami
Yeah,
team. Do
that's Skylar
please
Thompson.
tread lightly. So
You're
that's the
going,
one
and
thing I
again
would
with
tell
the Packers, it's Miami with Tua back, Detroit and Seattle. Now
you.
they all throw those are deep, those are offenses. Like now Seattle's got the O line issue, but still like they get any sort of consistency there, it's shred city, and so that's absolutely not, absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah, I get if you have to roster them because there is that's the thing opposite of Washington. There's talent on that Green Bay defense. But there comes a point where like, do I want to play them against these three offenses? So yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that's all we got. Do you have a fantasy dad bod player of the week?
Not off the top, I will give a shout out to future Dad Bod. I saw a high school playoff highlight. Scoop and a score, D tackle, listed 5'9", 350, and I think he did like a cartwheel into the end zone. I was just like, big boys, big toys
There
moment.
you go.
Of course, his high school didn't catch a name or even what
Yeah,
state we're talking about, but I think the jerseys were white with the red trim. So that's the
there
best
you
I
go.
got. But
I
that's the only thing
saw
that came to mind.
I saw a TikTok of a kid. I don't know how old, because I don't know how old the other person is when I tell the story. Lineman, D lineman, based on the number. He's like, hey, and he shows the scoreboard. He goes, hey, we just beat this team real bad. And he goes, the other team rolled out Baby Gronk, and we took it to him. So I appreciate the shout out for taking it to Baby Gronk's team. But nothing against Baby Gronk. More about Baby Gronk's dad, I guess. But
Sure.
like, he's since chilled. I think I've heard less about Baby Gronk recently. But shout out to that kid, giving a really good and funny commentary about the situation.
Yeah.
Uh, that was it. I guess my shout out's actually going to go different sport. I'm going to give a shout out to Cal Raleigh, Seattle Mariner, Dumper, getting an MVP vote. So there you go, Cal Raleigh.
I'm excited for baseball already. So
You're right, dude. We're not even into
I
spring
never
training, man. You gotta pace yourself here. Like,
I am.
okay, I was
It's
the
more
World Series just ended, man. Like,
right.
pace yourself a little bit.
It's just for all the potential opportunities with the fantasy and the rumblings and Roki Sasaki coming from Japan and
Oh yeah, no,
yeah, it's
trust me.
just
Honestly, it's almost like the off season of baseball is like. I feel like we're gonna go on a little tangent here. Baseball is the ultimate of all our sports because when football ends, there's really nothing for those that don't watch like hockey or something like that. So
right.
a lot of North American fans, they don't watch that, and so it's like it's your kind of like your downtime of sports, and so it's like the ultimate hope sport. It's
Yeah.
ultimate. Where I feel as like football, there's teams where are just like, no, this isn't gonna work. Although I feel like that way is baseball too, but I feel like you trick yourself in baseball. Be like, well, if we just get these pitchers to do what they've done,
Right?
like, yeah, it happens so much. Like, you can't convince yourself. Like, the Giants can't be like, well, if we get Daniel Jones to play better, like it'll just be all like that's not going to happen. But
True.
like
Yeah.
the Royals can be like, if we could just get the same rotation we had last year, which will never happen. Like they're never going to do it again. But like if we
To
could just do
replicate
it
it, yeah.
again, like
Yeah.
we'll be good again. And I'm like, that's why
Well,
they traded
maybe
away for Jonathan India. Spoiler,
yeah.
fantasy thing. They're like, well, we won't repeat it, so let's get something else. Trade him while he's high. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or they just need to you need to let them borrow your book that you let me borrow, the MVP machine. I'm a chapter in, but at least,
it's an, yeah,
we're talking about reinventing yourselves using, current analytical data. So
yeah. Just nerd out, just nerd out.
yeah, just
Yeah,
give your team over to AI. Even that's just probably the
just
latest
let
thing.
robots,
They're like, we just let the robots run us.
just simulate all the games. Let's just watch
Oh
the computer
gosh.
play the game. Let's do it.
That's. I think it's let's cut us off there.
Yeah,
it's
we'll
too
talk
late.
about
We've gone
Skynet.
too far. Yeah. All right. So tweet at us at Fantasy Dad Pods on the X. Any week 13 advice you need to start, whatever, let us know. Feel free to ask a question or just drop us a comment. But as always, we thank you for joining us. We appreciate you listening. Take care, be well, and until next time, see ya.
See ya.